Some people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because success scares them more than failure. Let that sink in. Think about it. How many times have you seen someone get so close to what they wanted? A job, a relationship, stability, growth, and then somehow everything collapses, not because of bad luck, not because of lack of talent, but because something inside them pulled the plug at the worst possible moment. Have you noticed this pattern? Right when things start working, they procrastinate, they disappear, they create conflict, they miss deadlines, they lose motivation. From the outside, it looks like laziness. From the inside, it feels like confusion. But here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. Self-sabotage doesn't feel like destruction. It feels like relief. Relief from pressure. Relief from responsibility. Relief from the moment where there are no more excuses. Because failure is familiar, success is not. Failure lets you say, I could have done more. Success forces you to live with what comes next, and that's terrifying. Some people don't fear losing, they fear arriving. Arriving means being seen. Arriving means being accountable. Arriving means you can't hide behind potential anymore. So the mind does something clever. It protects you by hurting you. It convinces you to quit just in time, to sabotage quietly, to self-destruct in ways that look accidental. And the worst part, most people who do this have no idea they're doing it. They don't wake up thinking, today I'll ruin my own life. They wake up feeling tired, unmotivated, overwhelmed, disconnected, and slowly, without noticing, they step off the path they once wanted more than anything. If this sounds familiar, stay with me. Because self-sabotage is not a character flaw, it's not weakness, and it's not a lack of discipline. It's a psychological pattern rooted much deeper than most people are willing to look. And once you see it, you'll never unsee it. Self-sabotage is not random, and it's not impulsive in the way most people imagine. It follows a pattern, a very specific one. Most people believe fear shows up before action, but with self-sabotage, fear shows up after progress. Everything feels fine while dreaming. Everything feels fine while planning. Everything feels fine while talking about what you could become. The discomfort begins the moment reality gets close. That's when the mind shifts, because growth creates a silent threat, not to your comfort, but to your identity. You see, your brain is not designed to make you successful. It's designed to keep you consistent. Consistent with who you believe you are. Consistent with what feels familiar. Consistent with your emotional age. So when you start moving towards something that requires a new version of you, your nervous system reacts, not with logic, with protection. Suddenly, the same person who felt motivated last week feels exhausted today. The same goal that felt exciting now feels heavy. The same opportunity starts feeling wrong, too much, or not aligned. Nothing external changed, but internally something did. Pressure increased. Success introduces expectations. Expectations introduce responsibility. Responsibility introduces the risk of disappointment, not just from others, but from yourself. And for many people, that risk is unbearable, because deep down, they're not afraid of failing. They're afraid of discovering that even after succeeding, they still won't feel worthy. So the mind intervenes. It delays. It distracts. It creates doubt. It magnifies small problems into reasons to stop. This is why self-sabotage often looks irrational. You miss opportunities you prayed for. You push away people who care. You abandon paths that finally start working. And later, you don't even understand why. Here's the key insight most people miss. Self-sabotage is a form of emotional regression. In those moments, the adult part of you steps back, and an older fear takes the wheel. A fear formed long before your current goals existed. often in childhood, often during moments where safety depended on staying small, quiet, or dependent. For some people, success meant separation. For others, it meant pressure. For others, it meant attention they weren't ready to handle. So the mind learned a rule. Don't go too far. Don't stand out. Don't grow faster than you can emotionally manage. And that rule stayed active, even when you grew older, even when you became capable, even when your dreams outgrew your emotional defenses. That's why self-sabotage feels confusing. Part of you wants more. Another part is terrified of what more demands. And instead of choosing consciously, your system chooses for you, quietly, automatically, at the worst possible time. If you've ever wondered why you keep repeating the same cycle, getting close and pulling away, starting strong and fading out, this is why, and we're just getting started. Because the next layer goes even deeper. Let's say something uncomfortable. Most people don't sabotage themselves because they doubt their ability. They sabotage themselves because success would force them to face something they've avoided their entire life. Their real fear is not failure, it's exposure, because success removes excuses, it removes hiding places, it removes the ability to say, "I never really tried." When you succeed, you can no longer blame circumstances. You can no longer blame timing. You can no longer blame other people. And suddenly, you're left alone with one terrifying question. If I finally get what I want, who do I become next? That question freezes people, because becoming more means losing something familiar. The familiar struggle, the familiar chaos, the familiar identity built around potential instead of responsibility. Some people don't know who they are without their problems. Their suffering became part of their personality. Their struggle became their story. Their limitations became how others relate to them. So when progress threatens that identity, the mind panics. Not consciously, emotionally. It whispers things like, "This doesn't feel like you. You're changing too fast. People will expect more from you now. What if you disappoint them? What if you disappoint yourself?" And that's when self-sabotage feels safer than growth. Because self-sabotage gives control. You fail on your terms, you leave before you're left, you destroy before something can take something from you. It feels like power, but it's actually protection. There's another fear beneath this one. The fear of emotional adulthood. True growth demands something many people were never taught. Emotional self-support. No one rescuing you, no one excusing you, no one absorbing consequences for you. Just you, your choices, and their outcomes. For someone emotionally stuck in an earlier stage of life, that feels overwhelming. So instead of stepping fully into adulthood, they delay, they procrastinate, they rely on others. They stay just capable enough to survive, but never enough to feel fully responsible. They appear intelligent, creative, charismatic, full of potential. But internally, they're exhausted, because avoiding adulthood requires constant self-interference. You have to sabotage opportunities. You have to complicate simple progress. You have to create chaos to justify staying small. And over time, that creates shame. Quiet shame. The kind you don't talk about. You start feeling like an imposter, like everyone else is moving forward while you're stuck, like time is passing and you're standing still, so you compensate. With humor, with charm, with excuses that sound reasonable on the surface. But deep down, you know, it's not that you can't move forward. It's that moving forward would require you to let go of who you've been hiding behind. And that's terrifying. Because growth isn't just about gaining something. It's about losing the version of you that needed protection. And that version doesn't want to disappear. So it fights back, through delay, through distraction, through self-destruction disguised as not ready yet. If this feels uncomfortably accurate, good. It means you're seeing the real enemy. And in the next act, We're going to talk about how this pattern keeps repeating until you interrupt it consciously. Because awareness alone is not enough. Here's the part most people never realize. Self-sabotage is not a single decision. It's a loop, and once you're inside it, everything starts reinforcing itself. It usually begins with progress. You feel motivated, focused, clear. You take steps forward, and then something subtle happens. Your nervous system detects unfamiliar territory. Not danger in the external sense, but danger to identity. Because your brain doesn't care about your dreams, it cares about predictability. So when your life starts changing faster than your identity can keep up, your system tries to restore balance, not growth. Balance. That's when the discomfort appears. Restlessness, doubt, a strange urge to escape. You don't think, I'm sabotaging myself. You think things like, I'll do it tomorrow. I need more time. This doesn't feel right anymore. Maybe this isn't what I actually want. These thoughts feel rational. They sound reasonable. That's why the loop is so effective. Then comes the behavior. You miss one small action, delay one decision, skip one opportunity. Nothing dramatic, but your brain feels relief. Relief is powerful because your nervous system just learned something. Pulling back reduces discomfort, so it remembers that. Next time you feel that same inner tension, your brain repeats the strategy automatically. Avoid, delay, escape. And every time you do, something else happens. Your confidence drops, not all at once. Quietly, you start trusting yourself less. You begin thinking, why do I always do this? What's wrong with me? I never follow through. And now the loop tightens, because shame enters the picture. Shame doesn't motivate change. It freezes it. So to escape that feeling, you distract yourself. You numb. You stay busy with things that don't move your life forward, which creates more stagnation, more frustration, more proof in your mind that you're incapable, and the loop completes itself. Progress, discomfort, avoidance, relief, shame, stagnation, repeat. This is why self-sabotage feels impossible to break, because every part of the loop reinforces the next. And here's the cruel irony. The more intelligent and self-aware you are, the better you become at justifying the loop. You intellectualize it. You analyze instead of act. You explain instead of change. You turn insight into another hiding place. So you watch videos, read books, understand the psychology, but your behavior stays the same. Because the loop doesn't break at the level of understanding. It breaks at the level of tolerance. Your system has to learn how to tolerate growth discomfort without immediately escaping it. And most people were never taught how. They were taught to chase motivation, but motivation is unreliable. They were taught to push harder, but pushing triggers more resistance. They were taught to wait until it feels right, but growth rarely feels right at first, so they stay stuck, not because they're weak, but because their nervous system learned safety in staying small. And until that association changes, self-sabotage will keep showing up in different forms. New goal, same ending. New opportunity, same withdrawal. Different situation, same internal reaction. The loop doesn't care what the dream is. It only cares about protecting the identity you've been living inside. But here's the turning point. Once you see the loop clearly, you stop blaming yourself. You realize this isn't me being broken. This is a pattern. And patterns can be interrupted, but not by force, by strategy. And in the final act, we're going to talk about exactly how that interruption begins. Not with hype, not with motivation, but with a shift so small and precise that the loop has no choice but to loosen. Here's the truth most people never hear. Self-sabotage doesn't end when you become fearless. It ends when you become honest. Honest about what you can tolerate. Honest about who you are right now, not who you wish you were, honest about the cost of staying the same, because the pattern doesn't break with a dramatic transformation, it breaks with a quiet interruption. A moment where you do something different, not because you feel ready, but because you refuse to keep running. The real shift begins when you stop asking, "How do I eliminate fear?" and start asking, "How do I move while fear is present?" That's the line most people never cross. They wait for clarity, they wait for confidence, they wait for motivation, but growth doesn't wait. So the interruption looks small, almost disappointing. You don't fix your whole life. You don't reinvent yourself. You don't prove anything to anyone. You choose one action that slightly violates the old pattern, just one, and you do it without negotiating with your emotions. Not perfectly, not dramatically, just deliberately. Because here's what actually retrains the nervous system. Not success, not praise, not results. Consistency without escape. When you feel the urge to pull back and you don't. When the discomfort rises and you stay. When the old excuse appears and you don't follow it. That moment sends a new signal to your brain. This is uncomfortable but not dangerous. And that signal changes everything. At first it feels weak. You'll think, "This isn't enough. I should be doing more. I'm still behind." That's the old identity trying to regain control. Ignore it. Because what you're doing now isn't impressive, it's effective. You're teaching your system that growth doesn't require collapse, that progress doesn't demand perfection, that you can feel resistance and still move forward. And slowly, something shifts, not overnight, not loudly, but steadily. Your self-trust begins to return, not because you succeeded, but because you didn't abandon yourself. That's the real wound self-sabotage creates. Not failure, self-abandonment. Every time you quit on yourself quietly, your system learns, "I can't rely on me." And every time you stay, even imperfectly, you reverse that belief. This is why people who heal self-sabotage don't become aggressive or obsessive. They become calm. They stop chasing outcomes and start honoring agreements with themselves. They don't overpromise. They don't fantasize. They don't collapse under pressure. They move slowly, deliberately, relentlessly. And here's the final piece. You don't need to defeat fear to grow. Fear will come with you. What changes is that fear stops driving. It becomes background noise, not the steering wheel. So if this video felt uncomfortable, that's not a bad sign. It means something real was touched. And if you recognize yourself in this pattern, you're not weak. You're someone who learned to survive first and is now being asked to live. That transition always feels threatening at first, but it's also where freedom begins. If this made you think, stay here, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment answering this honestly. What's one thing you've been avoiding not because you can't do it, but because it would change how you see yourself? That answer matters more than motivation ever will. We'll continue from here.